coming up in this episode.
We know where we want to go, but we also know we don't know everything, and that probably our users know better than us what they want. And I guess that's accepting the fact that we don't know everything, and we can be wrong, and we can have better ideas coming from the community as well.
Basically, so when I started streaming in 2020, I thought it would be just a nice, fun things to do. But actually, first, everything around streaming is pushing you to watch out, like for numbers, for growth, for everything. Like it shouldn't just be a hobby for them. It's more like you have to pursue this goal. Where if you don't have engagement, if you don't have people to talk with during your stream, you're kind of failing. And so I was kind of feeling this kind of heavily. And so I just call him and say, like, okay, you know way better than me, so can you just help me around and we'll try to see how it works. And what Nico did is just like he jumped on my stream every time and was streaming and just chat with me and the viewers that were coming along while I was streaming. And just by doing that, which seems like just a simple element, it basically unlocked everything.
Whatever it is, the type of content I think people are putting out there, the reason why people generally like to consume streamed content is because of connection.
Yeah.
And feeling like you're part of a community. Maybe there's a shared interest like the saxophone or video games or whatever. If the human element is pulled out, then that entire exchange feels very reductive.
The Founders Unplugged podcast, hosted by Greg McCallum. Raw, uncensored conversations with startup founders.
Yeah.
Oh,
So guys, it's great to have you on finally. We've been talking about doing this for a long time. So, and I know you're both really busy, so I really, really appreciate you giving me the time today. So there isn't, like I said to you before, there isn't a huge amount of structure in this. We've already recorded, we're already talking. But there is one thing that I like to do in the beginning, and that's just have my guests introduce themselves and a bit about the business. And you can literally talk for as long or as little as you both like. There's no time limit. Don't feel you're talking too much. Just, your story is your story, right? So, yeah, or it can be one sentence. It's up to you. But I'll hand it over to you both, and take it away.
Okay. Do you want to go first, Nico? Or?
Yeah, you start.
As usual. Okay.
Throw you right under the bus immediately.
Yeah, you always do that. so yeah, I'm Mathieu. So I'm I've been a software engineer for about 12 years now. Got like a fairly hectic scholarship, but it was really interesting. I've been doing my basically university while working at the same time in different companies. They helped me to go through like all those years, and I learned a lot during that time. So I'm just going to shut down my notification, otherwise you're going to hear it. And so, yeah, I've mainly worked for small companies, startups, from seed round to Series A, B. At that time, I've been trying to build a lot of different side projects over the different years. And also, I'm a musician, as you can most probably see it in the background. Even though a keyboard is not really my main instrument, I'm playing guitar and saxophone mainly. And so I've been streaming that on Twitch for the past 3 years regularly. Just taking requests and jamming along, and that kind of where the main idea of what we do came with it, I would say. And Nico, who is here, basically was my moderator and mentor when I was on Twitch. And when he wanted to take a step back, I basically built a replacement for him, which is an AI Alicia, and so that's what our business is about.
Very cool.
Wow, that was one long sentence.
It was one long sentence.
There's no limit. Don't worry, it's fine.
Yeah, and I'm Nicolas. I also am originally a software engineer for maybe past 8 years. Very similar profile. We met in uni where we're following similar studies, and I've been doing like software engineering, or being like more of in the engineering leadership in similar startups. I've had a very hectic life in some ways. I've been like a high-level tennis player for years. I was like one of the very promising new French players for a couple of years, and then I stopped. And yeah, and as Matthew said, I explored streaming very early. Even when Twitch was early, I realized recently that my Twitch account is 12 years old.
Oh wow.
So I think
You
I
are not-
joined right after they became Twitch, because they were like Justin TV before.
Hmm.
And yeah, like I started streaming in 2014, and I've been like streaming games. I've been streaming tournaments I played. I've been streaming casting tournaments as well. So it's done a lot of stuff. And then yeah, I guess I was doing all those things on the side, and I was having my day job. And so having this kind of way of merging the stuff I was doing on the side with my day job was quite nice. Even though I enjoy less and less watching Twitch nowadays.
Oh really? That's interesting.
We're watching too much.
Well, is it all because of? Look, I've got a million questions, and this is just the first one that's going to come out, and it's not that interesting. But is it just because of like? Because I used to watch a lot of Twitch too, and then I stopped, and that was mainly because I just found that a lot of the streamers were just the same, right? Like there's no real personality. It's become very homogenized. Do you find the same sort of thing, or is that just me?
I think it most probably depend at which level, because all the one that kind of went professional, at least pursue the way to become professional, they tend to kind of align with what would be working the most. But the type of streamers that we have in the community are a bit more diverse, so we can see like really a lot of different things. And I think it's still quite interesting. The main problem that I at least I have is that we are watching a lot of small bits, so we don't have the same type of connection that you might have if you start liking one streamer.
Yeah.
So you're coming back, etc. We're just like, because someone new just sign up, and so we want to make sure that everything is going well. We jump on that channel, which kind of check, we see in the background, and we try to see if everything is going well, and then we jump to another one, etc. And so it kind of breaks this connection that you would usually look for when you start watching a new channel on Twitch.
Yeah, like a long-term commitment sort of thing.
Yeah.
You guys are just having small affairs. Yeah. Sorry, Nicolas. I asked the question while you were sort of doing.
Yeah, no,
thing, so please continue if you.
I guess for me, it's really the part that it's stopped being a hobby and it became a job. I mean,
Right.
I'm happy to say my job is watching Twitch streams.
Yeah, it could be worse.
But then, yeah, I'm not watching things because I want to watch them. I'm kind of watching because I have to. Even though, again, we have like very cool streamers, and I have some streams I have to watch them, but you don't need to ask them. The stream is already open. Yeah. It's more, it's sometimes I would like to do other things, but yeah, here I am watching 20 streams at the same time.
Fair enough. Okay, and then sorry, go ahead.
It's just a fun joke that we have. We call him the control tower. So he's basically having like 20 streams and just looking if everything is going well at the same time, which is quite fun. And also reassuring at the same time.
I'm imagining like 20 screens you have behind, but we can't see it because we're just on one, but I'm imagining that's what it's like. Is that like in the Matrix? You know,
even not.
I wish, but I have just the screen of my Mac, so it's like
really
one screen.
20 streams on that.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Just develop that skills over time.
Fair enough. Well, I think maybe when you get some, like when you move to the next stage, maybe buy Nicolas another screen. You know, just at least one.
It's on the list. I keep telling him like you need another screen.
I'm just imagining you like to as a joke sending him like a tiny little thing like that big or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So the platform, you know, you guys touched on it a little bit, but what is it ultimately? What is it? I know already, obviously, but you know, for those listening and watching, what is it exactly that the platform is and does?
Yeah, so I think to explain it better, it's more about what happened when Nico helped me. It's basically, so when I started streaming in 2020, I thought it would be just a nice, fun things to do, but actually, first, everything around streaming is pushing you to watch out, like for numbers, for growth, for everything. Like it shouldn't just be a hobby for them. It's more like you have to pursue this goal, where if you don't have engagement, if you don't have people to talk with during your stream, you're kind of failing. And so I was kind of feeling this kind of heavily. And so I just call him and say, like, okay, you know way better than me, so can you just help me around and we'll try to see how it works. And what Nico did is just like he jumped on my stream every time and was streaming. and just chat with me and the viewers that were coming along while I was streaming. And just by doing that, which seems like just a simple element, it basically unlocked everything. People were staying longer, they were having more chats. I had more energy while I was streaming because you will have someone who is going to respond to you if you say something, which is not usually the case when you start streaming. And so having this kind of back and forth and having this dynamic in chat really like unlock everything for me. And I was able to start building up a community about what I was doing. And so having some people coming regularly, and so you kind of create links. And so it helped everything, having more people connecting with networks, so helping other streamers to know about my stream, and so they were rating me at the time and helped me grow, but in more like sustainable way. And when basically he wanted to take a step back because I was streaming a bit, let's say 3 times a week for 2 or 3 hours, was a bit of like a lot of commitment. The idea was, okay, but maybe can we just do that, but with an AI? And looking at the technologies that we had available at that time, so in 2022, in July, so last year, it was actually possible to replicate what Nicolas was doing directly in the chat by making sure that the AI was able to interact with multiple persons at the same time, and also with the streamer through different ways to understand the audio. And so Alicia is basically kind of having your friend in the chat who's going to join every time you stream, and she's going to interact with you and your viewers to keep like the chat engaged, and having this form of kind of safety nets. Whenever you're streaming, you know that Alicia is going to be there.
I'll just share it on the screen as well so people can see. So NovaSquare.io is where people can go. Yeah?
Yeah, exactly. And I would say the big difference between Alicia and Nico is that Alicia is actually customizable, which Nico is not.
Right. So Alicia's not as stubborn.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what basically you're saying. That's what you said. I didn't say that. That's what you said.
You can make her stubborn. For example, one of the features that we added recently is the fact that you can use commands. So if you see like my background, like I can change the lines through different commands in my chat. And so we basically gave her the ability to use this type of commands. But depending on the personality that you give to Alicia, she will or will not use them. Like I will be in stream and say, hey, Alicia, can you change the lights to blue? And she'll say, or maybe you can just do it yourself. And just a few messages later, she's going to change it to red and say, happy now? And I'm like, okay.
So you basically gave her an attitude.
Yeah. She has a very strong attitude.
Wow.
It really, again, it depends on what you want as a streamer, but I like the grumpiness, the sarcastic kind of vibes. So it works well in my stream, but there is other people who prefer like very supportive, where she's going to do everything that they ask. But we're kind of going in a way where she has her mind, her own mind on that, and decide whether or not she wants to do things. So it's
pretty cool. Well, I mean, it adds the element, I suppose, which is so important in community building, which is the injection of personality, because you can't really, if it was just a bot, just another bot, because I know there are already bots that exist for these sort of platforms, then it's just not going to engage people in the same way. I mean, like you said, from the very early stages of your stream, if Nico joining was useful because it was getting people to stick around and engaging in chats, then presumably that was because of both your personality and Nico's personality in that. If it was just, hey guys, what do you eat for breakfast? It would be a bit like, okay, this is a bit boring, let's go somewhere else kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense.
It's a dynamic. It's a dynamic between like the co-animation or the companion that you will have in your chat that's going to make it work. So definitely,
well, I mean, it's super interesting. So you said earlier, just before Nico joined, that you've got, you've had another great day of people joining up. So tell us about where you're at with it. What that's training. But when did it start again? Last year, you said you were building it, but it launched fairly recently, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the MVP, I would say, was August 2022.
Right.
End of August 2022, we had like a first streamer who requested to try on their chats, trying it, which was a literal disaster.
Oh, no. Why was it a disaster? What happened?
So it's basically on Twitch you have emotes. Like it's a word that's going to be replaced by something nice in chats. which we didn't really plan well because I was not using that type of thing on my channel, and it has been built for my channel. So when it happened live, she literally lost it. Like Alicia was just all over the place, not understanding what was happening in chat, and so it was a mess. And so we had to kind of shut her down during the stream and say like, okay, sorry, we'll just take it back and we'll rework that. We got around there eventually, but it's it was one of the first try we did. And after working with Nico for a few weeks, even month, we got the first alpha in mid-December 2022. Yeah. We got a lot of different streamers coming along from different communities as well, because I'm from the music community, but on Twitch is not the main one. So we kind of got the feedback from different communities as well. And from there, we launched the beta 1st of March and got first paying customer in the same week. And then we were having more and more people joining the Discord, so our community, plus some people like getting the subscription as well, giving us feedback. I mean, at that time, it was really impressive for us to get that many customers coming on the platform, because the platform was just a literal joke.
Yeah, I think we have a fun story around these first customers. We had a streamer that was alpha testing the product for us. And like, you had many people that were watching us from there and like, oh, it looks nice. And so one guy said, yeah, it looks nice. You know what? I'm going to subscribe. And so we were happy to launch our product officially and to start trying to see if the people would buy it. And so someone buys it and like, okay, well, we're very happy, but we feel kind of scared because will it work?
Yeah.
The platform was very unstable because it was very early stage.
Yeah.
And so what we would do, because of course it was a US customer, so very unfriendly time zone for the UK.
Yeah.
I would put my alarm at 2 a.m. and go watch a stream from 2 to 4, go back to sleep, and then wake up at 8 for my normal job to make sure that one, she would join the stream when it started, because we were not sure it would happen. And then look at the interaction to see, is it going well? And I must say, the first couple of times, it was not working super well. I was feeling really upset to wake up at 2 a.m. to see our product not working well. But this person is still with us today, so I guess
really?
It's insane.
But I mean, I suppose that's the thing. Like, that's the thing people don't tell you, right, about software startups is the first sale. While you always remember it, it is the most stressful thing, because you're like, I'm not sure if I want them to pay for this. Like, the expectation's too high.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as long as there's transparency and they understand it's new, it's a work in progress, like, and everyone's on the same page, people can be very forgiving.
Yeah.
You know, because they're the early adopters. They're forward thinking. They're thinking, okay, it might not work perfectly now, but when it does, I'm going to have the edge and it solves a problem for me. So, yeah, you've just got to have faith, haven't you? But it's it's a bit difficult, isn't it?
What was interesting with that with him is that we actually tried multiple times to talk to him, but he doesn't want to talk.
Oh, really?
So we went on his stream, so we know like if it did work or not work.
Yeah.
So we sent some messages saying like, "Hey, we saw like last time it didn't like really go well. Do you have any feedback? Do you want us to do different things? If there is like anything we can do to help, that's fine. No, that's okay." And I'm like,
no, yes, now it was fun. So like,
yeah.
Well, I guess it was fun then.
It is still the same thing today. Like he doesn't want to talk to us much, so we stopped sending messages, because it's just like, okay, if it's
leave him to it.
Yeah, you still use it, so that's great.
Does it when it goes wrong though? Do the streamers tend to make fun of it to sort of make it a bit of a thing? So, or do they acknowledge it usually, or do they just ignore it?
So it depends what goes wrong. Like if, for example, she doesn't join, it's a bit annoying.
Nothing to talk about. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. If it's misunderstanding or mishearing what the streamer said, usually they make fun of it, and it's kind of becomes something like someone, because the problem with the understanding what is being said in the audio, that some words specifically on Twitch and the usernames doesn't match well. So a guy named King Dam Breaker made a donation to the streamer during the stream, and so the streamer said, "Oh, thank you, Kingdom Breaker, for the for the donation," and she understood hamburger.
Right.
And so she sent a message in chat saying like, "Hey, thank you, hamburger, for the donation. You're very generous," or blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Now, so the guy is still like, they're still laughing about it, and it happened, I don't know, 5 months ago.
Yeah.
It's still like the guy is named Hamburger now.
It's
So,
like an inside joke. But I mean, that's the thing. It becomes content when it's
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. But I like this idea as well that it just might not show up, like just feeling a bit tired today, can't be bothered to come to work kind of thing, like just, you know, or show up late, like, I'm sorry I'm late, guys, I was out drinking last night, you know.
Yeah, in the same spirit, because it's, you know, still for the same person, like, so the first customer, so goes in the stream, it's going well, and then after 1 hour and a half out of the like 3 hour stream, Alicia says, "Yeah, well, it was nice, but it's time for me to go. Bye-bye." And I was like, "What do you mean bye-bye?"
Yeah, what are you doing? You do what you're told.
And the streamer also was like, "I don't understand what's going on."
That's brilliant. So I mean, these things add humor, I suppose, to it. But yeah, you learn from them and so do you find? I mean, this is, I imagine most of this was happening very early on. Is it? I'm assuming a lot more stable now. You don't really have these sort of things happening.
Yeah.
Now, right? Just because I'm just thinking everyone listening right now might just think, "Oh my god, this thing sounds like it's broken." I'm not gonna. But this is, we're talking about earlier on in the process.
Yeah. It was about like 6-7 months ago. So
Right.
one of the main thing we did, coming close to July. So specifically, we moved full time, which helped a lot to build the actual product.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were working. We moved to part time to have some extra days aside from the weekend to work on Alicia. But yeah, in May we moved to be full time, so it was it was different.
And
what were your full-time jobs at the time? Both doing software engineering at the time, presumably. Yeah. Okay. And where was that? If you don't mind saying, which companies? What kind of projects were you working on? What were you guys doing?
So I think so. One of the things is we used to be working together in the same team just before. Before I started the project in 2022, we were at Unibody, which is an edtech company, and so I was a technical platform leader, and so we had the platform team. And so when I left, Nico jumped on there, like to replace me, basically.
Right.
I've done that with the AI, so he did it himself. That's what it is. And I was working as the lead platform engineer for a startup called Pensight, which is it's a platform for not content creators, sorry, but for service provider, personal service provider that help them to sell their product directly online.
Oh, okay, very cool. And so you stepped into those shoes for a bit, Nicolas, before
for almost a year. I mean, it was nice. I guess we missed the part of working together, and so it was cool to have that again. When we decided to launch Alicia. So it was quite a change for us as well to go full time like that for the project, because we were always joking of trying to start things and to create project. And I know I've participated in a couple of the tries that Mathieu, that the different projects he tried to launch over the years, and it never worked. I guess it's the learnings, not the failure, the learnings before it works.
Yeah.
And so I guess it really started to be uncharted territory once we had one customer, because it was the first time for both of us that we had someone paying for what we were building.
Yeah,
that's a different sign, isn't it? That's a sign that, okay, this is very different from the other projects or hobbies or whatever we were doing before. This is taking a different turn. So how did you know when it was the right time to start moving into it full time? I mean, there's a lot of things to consider there, right? I mean, a lot of founders I speak with are, doing their, it's a side hustle. It's the thing that they're doing on the side that they want to eventually do full time. But that's always a big question. Like, how do you know when it's right? Is it purely down to money, or are there other factors that you guys considered before making that decision?
So I think if it was purely done to money, we would still be working.
Right. Fair enough.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
No, I think the main element is so we were starting to see a big like enthusiasm from the community. Like people were starting to talk about us. We started to see this organic growth building up. The community started to be a bit more vibrant, like exchanging different things on Discord. And so we could see that people were really looking forward to see more elements. And as we were getting bigger on the community side, we started to have more paying customers, which mean also more services, like customer services that we needed to do during that time, fixing bugs when that happened. And we had the vision of going for the TwitchCon Paris, which was kind of a big decision because first, it's not cheap to go there, and also that we were kind of expecting that would be most probably the first pillar to start a bigger growth, or at least making sure that people were aware of that product.
Yeah. So you had an exhibit there, right? You didn't just attend to. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the main problem we had is that before, I would say before 2023, no one was ever thinking about having this kind of thing in chats. It didn't exist before, so when we started, like people couldn't understand what it was doing. We had a hard time to explain it to people, so we were more inclined to say, just try it out and you'll see how it works. Now it's started to be a bit easier for us to kind of explain how it is, and people already expect this type of elements in their chat. We still see a lot of people against AI as well, where basically they just don't want to see that in chat because just hate AIs, and so it's just going completely sideways every time they encounter one in a chat. So we knew that.
That's interesting that there's already prejudice against artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and it is actually bigger than I thought. Like we already thought that we would have few occurrence of that, but as soon as you have a community or a streamer which has more than, let's say, 20 viewers, at least you can be sure there is one in there who is not happy about AI. And it helps to kind of explain. So usually the streamers that both sign up for Alicia and have this type of people in the chat will have the right words to kind of explain how it works. And we also have the option for the streamer to exclude this user from Alicia's view, so she's not going to interact with them. And for that, we just suggest like you can just block the user as you would for any other user in Twitch, and so you won't see her messages. And that's how it works.
Interesting. Yeah, but what is it they don't like about it? Is it just that AI so artificial?
I think there is a bit of fear because there is kind of imaginary of AI from like some movies where it's this kind of things that can go sideways and become terrible.
Right.
Maybe there are some people, there is kind of fear that these AI are coming to replace people, and so they're not very happy with it.
Or like take their data or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, or take the jobs, or and now they're like invading their hobbies. So they're giving this kind of, oh, I can recognize it's an AI, and so it's annoying. Even though, of course we recognize AIs. It's just some people take longer to recognize this as an AI. So we have like so many occurrences of people chatting with Alicia for like 30 minutes and then saying, oh, by the way, are you real or an AI? Because sometimes your answers are confusing.
That's interesting. So just to sort of take a step back for a minute, then, it was originally created for the reason you mentioned, right? You needed that. You thought about that assistance in starting to build that community. So, but that's one use case. But presumably, Alicia can help with all Twitch streamers, right? This isn't just for those just starting out to help building a community. So this is someone who's actively participating in the chat on behalf of the streamer, regardless of the size of the streamer. So typically, let's say a bigger streamer, what kind of interactions are they generally doing? Because if, generally a streamer will be talking with the community as they go. So what is the need of having someone else in the chat? I mean, I'm asking this predominantly, while I kind of understand that, I imagine there's a lot of people who are listening and watching that don't understand Twitch, and they're not too familiar with they're familiar with the idea of streaming, but not maybe to that level. So what's the benefits of a streamer also having someone engaging in the chat if they're already engaging with the chat verbally or while they're doing whatever it is they're doing, playing a game, etc.?
Yeah. So first, I think there is different tier, if you want. So
Right.
there is a part where for us we see like the biggest addition is when you will be between 0 or 1 to 100 viewers, and that is going to help you have more engagement in chat or more people talking, specifically when you do something else. If there is interaction from the streamer, the Alicia is also going to interact with the streamer, so the conversation is going to be just additionally with more messages, and so they can basically react or spark new conversation, because sometimes Alicia is just going to suggest different things or bounce back to a different subject. They kind of help to keep the conversation going and make sure that even the streamer will not get how to say that, but not having enough things to say, kind of. It's going to spark that new conversation. When you go above 100, 200, 300 viewers, usually you have already a very active chat, or at least for most streamers from this size. And what we realize is there is streamers that will be actively reading the chats, and others that will basically be focusing more on what they are doing and just speaking few messages, not interacting with everyone. So if they pick just few messages, Alicia is going to be there to interact with the messages that hasn't been picked up, and so it keeps those people still interested in the chat, and so they will still send messages, even if it's with Alicia or to the viewers, to other viewers, or to the streamer. So it keeps the things going. When you go above that, like let's say 1,000, 2,000, that's basically where for us Alicia it's just going to be a fun part. People will mess around with her. It's going to be sending word messages, and it's going to be just a source of fun for the viewers in chat. And usually the streamer won't be even able to read all the messages that has been sent during that time. So it's more for the viewers to keep the chat interactive, and so people can still kind of mess around during that time. The way we see that in the future is also how we can help streamer partner to basically support them while they are doing branded content. So let's say, for example, they're selling, or not selling, but they do a partnership with, let's say, a camera. And so there is different feature about it. There is a specification and all of this. And so they will be talking about it at first. But during the chat, you might have viewers coming in, coming out, like just changing. So they won't have every information as a streamer just said it. And it would be nice to basically have someone in chat, like Alicia, to have all this information, being able to spot the different questions and answer it directly in chat. So they won't need to be focusing that much to make sure that all the information from the brand will be dispensed in the chat at that time.
Okay. And does it perform any kind of moderations as well or anything? Or is that more of an idea for later on? Because of I know a lot of Twitch streamers do have moderators in their chat and people that they hire in their staff. So is that also another element of it, or not quite yet?
Not yet, but it is definitely down the line. We started to look into it and how to do that. The main problem with moderation is depending on the community, on the streamer, on the usual vibes of the stream. It is hard to say if something has been said. Some things that has been said is harmful or not. Right. So you need to have some insight. So currently we're more looking into having the ability for Alicia to time out, which is a different element than ban. When you ban someone, it's banned from the channel for quite a long time. Time out is like, hey, calm down. Just
go and sit on the naughty step kind of thing. Yeah. And also, I mean, there's been enough stuff going on. I mean, I suppose not for a little while. I haven't heard anything, but I know earlier in the year, and especially last year, there was a lot of controversy around Twitch introducing some elements of AI already, from what I can understand, banning certain words in certain chat and all this, which caused a lot of controversy from my understanding. Has that created another sort of perception of what you do, just feeling like another layer on top of, for those that you mentioned that were like a bit skeptical or not too happy about it? Do you think maybe that's part of it? Is it's kind of they're already feeling a little bit policed by Twitch itself, clamping down on these things, and now another layer, right?
I don't think they see the link between the two.
Right.
Is the way that Twitch did this moderation is It's called the, unless I'm wrong, Nico. So if you know better, but it's the Shield, right? It's the Shield
Yeah.
mod.
Shield. Okay.
This is like you have different levels where you can define as a streamer. So it's all of this is controlled by the streamer. So people were not happy if it was enforced, like saying Twitch would say you have to get it at the level 2, otherwise we won't be recommended your channel or anything. But I don't think that's the case now. Nico?
I haven't used that. I mean, I probably disabled it for my channel. I said, yeah, anyone can say whatever. I'll do the job of banning them myself if I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember it got into some of the YouTubers I watched were talking about it and moaning about it and saying it was contributing to the demise of Twitch, because it has gone under fire quite a lot in the last couple of years, Twitch as a platform, hasn't it, for making some decisions that has upset the community pretty broadly. Does that worry you in any way? Like, just to sort of, play the what's the word I'm looking for, to poke the bear a little bit here, right? You're building a platform specifically for Twitch, and it is a platform that we've seen that's come under fire a lot recently. Does that worry you at all with the direction of the company? Are you thinking, okay, well, maybe we need to diversify into other streaming platforms just in case?
So that was a conversation we had, I think most probably 6 months ago, about how also we built Alicia. And the main element is what makes Alicia is not Twitch. Is the way we process just basically input messages or not. So everything is defined to be able to be plugged out from Twitch to other platform. We haven't done it yet because, again, for us would be a lot of time to build it for another platform, but it is something that's entirely doable and that wouldn't change the ways that Alicia is working. It is because if you take YouTube Live, Kick, which is one of the main competitor now, or at least the most visible, if you want, they all use the same principle. Like you have one live stream, which is using one of the tools that are provided by the open source community with OBS, for example, and you will have the chat element, which has events and messages, and all of these elements, if you can plug them in what we built, it's just going to work as well as it is currently working for Twitch. And also the main vision for us is to be able to expand outside of this phase of life for content creator, where you will have the online presence, which is on Twitch, YouTube, or Kick, and through the live stream. But for us is to be able to support them throughout, where you have this live elements, but you also have the offline, which is a community management. And then you have the acquisition part, which is for the users to have like more viewers. The main idea is currently most of the Discords where the community management happens for those content creators are kind of dead or deadish. And the main idea is to make sure that Alicia can also help them to activate their community and make sure that everyone kind of bounces together directly there. So we know that Twitch is one element. We have to start somewhere anyway. We know how they work. We have split it the way we work to make sure that what we use from Twitch is not tied to our IP. And we have the idea on expanding to different platforms, which are not live streaming platform.
Oh, okay. So like what then?
Like Discord.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense, because of anywhere where there's a community talking, then it applies, right? So
exactly.
Yeah. And that would be an additional service to a streamer, because most of them have a Discord server anyway. So then that would make sense as like an additional tool for them to use. So what kind of streamers do you mainly have using the platform at the moment?
Well, that's
it's very diverse.
Yeah, I guess the way it works for us is usually it goes through waves of communities discovering us.
Right.
So at first, Mathieu was it was in the music community. So our first wave of users is mostly music community or streamers watching music streamers.
Right.
And so we had this kind of first wave of where we had mostly music streamers, and then we had a couple of video game streamers that discovered us. And then with TwitchCon, it really became different, because we had one IRL streamer, which is basically I have a camera with me and I'm filming whatever I do all the time. That asked, hey, can I have it during the show? And so there were other people that were doing that kind of stream that said, oh, it looks nice, I want it as well. So we started having IRL streamers, and they were also from other region of the world. So it was like regional communities that said, "Oh, it looks interesting, and I can try it." And then we had the VTubers that started discovering it. So it's like the people are streaming using an avatar instead of showing their faces. And we started opening to other language. So recently we had a Swedish streamer that discovered us.
Oh, wow.
And so we started sharing with Swedish communities. And now we start having an influx of Swedish streamers.
Yeah.
So we're the same with like German or Spanish or French, of course.
So how are you going to know if it's working in those other languages? Are you just hoping?
Played quite a lot. We spent some time to just look into the chat, like copy pasting everything.
Just copy and pasting it to Google.
Yeah. And we also we have often we're very close to the community that's using Alicia, so we have often calls with them. So they give us basically screenshots or explaining what happened, if they think it was good, if they think it could be better. So we just have this exchanges where from there we start to improve and asking again all the feedback extra. So
and they could do all that in the Discord, right? That's where they give you all the feedback. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's a really nice diverse mix by the sound of it then.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's quite diverse, and it's diverse in size, it's diverse in region, language, content. We don't have two streamers that are the same, or maybe like if there are friends streaming together the same games.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's very different.
But I think that's what appeals to a lot of people about streaming as a consumer is because of that, because there's such a diverse range of things to watch. Ordinarily, like I said, I'm finding it, or I have found it a bit the same, but to be fair, it's because I only ever chose to watch usually a specific type. So I was always very interested in gaming and usually a handful of the same games, and so I was probably doing myself a disservice in that. Well, it's usually going to follow the same fucking formula for the most part, isn't it? Really. So yeah, no, that's fair enough. So I want to talk about something else really quickly. Your music, Mathieu, and your tennis playing, Nico. I'm fascinated by both of these things. So music first, and then we'll talk tennis if that's okay. What kind of stuff do you play?
That's very diverse as well.
Okay.
So I think I started to be very interested into Guitar Heroes, which so I don't know if you know like John Petrucci, Greg Howe, stuff like this. So it was a lot of jazz fusion as well. Obviously I'm very far from this type of skills, so I kind of diverted from there, but I was really interested into progressive music, so metal progressive, rock progressive, and all of this kind of open to more and more elements. So I'm a big fan of funk, of jazz. So it's really expanded. And now that I'm playing saxophone, it's like old jazz type of song standards, thing like this that I'm really into.
I always wanted to learn to play the saxophone. It looks like it looks like it's one of the. I think there was a period, especially in like the 90s, where every man thought if you pick up a saxophone, then every woman would just fall at your feet. Like, I think that was the idea, wasn't it? I don't know where it came from. I think it was like TV shows like Baywatch and stuff. The soundtrack was always like a saxophone soundtrack, wasn't it? To these old 80s and 90s sexy time TV shows. So I think that's what it was. and action movies of the 80s and 90s, they usually had that as well, didn't they? Like Lethal Weapon and stuff. It was always a saxophone when the guy was going through a hard time before he killed a load of people. Like that's like what it was.
I think in the 90s it changed to have this guitar, very rockish type of riff between scenes or something like this. So I know that it was really in the mind of people, at least from like this generation, to have electric guitar with this very distorted sounds.
That was the grunge rock era, wasn't it? I mean, Nirvana came up and everything else, and that's when it all kicked off.
Yeah. But I think I would say still like one of my favorite band right now is still Porcupine Tree, which is progressive, but I can't say if it's rock, metal, or it just depends on the album. But it's really cool. I mean, if you ever get a chance to listen to it,
I'll check them out. Porcupine Tree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Porcupine.
So for a bit of background, I used to be heavily into music. I don't think we talked about this before. I can't remember.
No.
But so I used to play guitar and drums. Yeah, very, very long time ago. I used to be in a band and play lead guitar. That was my thing when I was before I even hit my 20s. That's what I was doing. And we used to go around and gig and stuff. And then I was involved in the music scene for a very long time. It was the first business I ever started. It was me and a bunch of friends. We put together an open mic night, which sounds, pretty mundane and nothing special, but the reason why we created it was because we used to go to open mic nights back home. And have you ever been to an open mic? I assume you probably have, right?
Yeah.
They can be quite boring, right? They can be a bunch of typically middle-aged men, sat in a room.
If you are enjoying this episode and want to support the show, please like and subscribe with notifications turned on.
And it's usually quite quiet, and there's usually a bunch of people in the same venue who just want to have a fucking drink, and they have no interest in the music. And and it's just everyone's playing, and it's kind of like it's a bit of a circle jerk. Like everyone's just like, oh wow, and it's all very celebrated, but it's very, very small, and it can be very fun in a lot of good community, a great place to practice and all that. But there were days where it just felt very cliquey. And if you're wanting to come into it as especially young, because we were all teenagers and we wanted to perform and we had high energy, you felt very cast out. Like, this is an old man's club. Like, this isn't for you. And right. And especially because at the time, what I wanted to do on stage was beatboxing. So I would show up to these open mic nights with my guitarist friend who wanted to perform by himself, and myself who wanted to beatbox, and an MC who I had who wanted to perform with me. And of course they would say no to us, me and my friend. They'd be like, no, you can't, we don't do beatboxing, it's guitar only kind of thing. So we were like, all right, fuck you guys. So we did our own. And we decided for the beatboxing, because I needed to practice as much as possible because I was still learning, that I would do it in between all of the artists. So I became the host. And so me and my friend became the MC and the beatboxing host to an open mic night. So we did it in the pub. And the next thing we know, within weeks, we ended up filling this entire pub to the point where we had people sat on top of the roof of the pub garden, within the pub garden, because it got so popular. Because our rule was anything goes. Anyone can play anything. So we had like a saxophonist. We had just someone, a Japanese guy, I always remember, who would just play electric guitar and he'd just shred. And that's all he would do, right? We had poetry and we had us. And so because of that, the diversity, it just drew people to it. And that was this 3SM, Three Spirit Music, the first ever business. And then it just expanded. So little story I share with music, I'm very passionate about. Don't have any involvement with it now, but I did. So I'm always interested in talking about it. And I think there's a lot of similarities between being in the startup ecosystem and being in the music industry.
Yeah.
It's there's a community aspect. It's scrappy. Like everyone's trying to like support each other. Like you're learning at home. You know what I mean? You're recording at home. Like there's a lot of similarities there, which to those communities, which I really appreciate. So yeah, I just want to share that little story with you.
I think it was a kind of lucky element at least from where I'm from in France, from Bordeaux, where that music community was really strong. And I know it was mainly one or two associations that were building this. So, and you had a lot of different jam sessions, at least once a month, where you even had a stage and everything, and people were there drinking beers. And it's mainly musicians, obviously, that were coming there, and some friends from the musicians, so they were just spending the night and listening to what was happening on stage. But first, it was extremely scary because when you do your first kind of mic and jam, I was not really prepared to be on stage. I thought we would be like, on the ground like with everyone and just like grabbing a guitar and jamming like you would do with your friend. But it was still very, very nice, and I think it kind of spread out, and you had it in different pubs and bars in Bordeaux. So I was very surprised when I moved to Bayonne, which is 2 hours down the south of Bordeaux, really at the border with Spain, and there nothing. Like literally, you had one place, and it was super tough to even find a place to rehearsal.
Yeah,
like, and I was chatting with people, and you can't get anything. Everyone that I was meeting up saying like, oh yeah, I learned guitar when I was young, but I stopped because like there is nothing here. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Move. Go somewhere where there's music.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was so weird. So yeah, I get like building it, and I mean, I feel in UK it's a bit easier, but you correct me if I'm wrong, to organize events in bars and pubs, or pubs mainly, because it's more like a public and open space where you can do and kind of talk to the people that manage the place. Where I remember having to talk to bars because pubs are not that popular yet in France. And yeah, no, like, it's just they're a way for us to make money. Like, are you going to bring people that will be like, yeah, but if you do too many noise, we don't want it. Or it was way harder to get people on board. Like, they just didn't care. Like, unless you drink, and you have to drink a lot. Like, they wanted more to rent a private venue rather than having an event organized within their venue.
Well, so they didn't even consider it like, oh, it will be entertainment for our current customers or anything. They were just like, no, it has to bring more money in.
Yeah, don't care. Yeah. The only people that managed to do that in Bayou, they were like friends with the owner, like on the place, which helps, obviously. But it's just, I
mean, I guess it's fairly similar here, or at least it used to be. It's been a long time since I've been involved in that world, but you know, it used to be a lot like that too, in a sense. But they understood that, okay, so during the week it's not that busy. So usually, you know, especially a Sunday was a big one where like a Sunday or a Wednesday were like the quietest nights, and still are for most pubs and bars. So they'll be like, okay, well, we know we're not going to have anything really going on anyway. So yeah, come in. If you end up bringing a few extra people, well, then that's better than what it was going to be. So as far as they were concerned, it was like, you're going to help us out some way just by being here, and for there to be something on. So, and there are some, obviously, you know, there are some pubs obviously that they are known for always having some sort of live music on as well. The more like the venues, they start sort of crossing the line between pub and music venue. Yeah. But where I live though is very different. So I grew up in Oxford, and I don't know if you know, but you know, some of the world's greatest bands have come out of Oxford, and musicians come out of Oxford. So you know, Radiohead, Supergrass, you know, all that kind of stuff. And more recently the Foals, which I met and used to tour with, and Stornoway and a few others. And so you know, huge music scene there, vibrant music scene. But then I moved to Eastbourne. I moved to different places around the UK, but then I settled in Eastbourne. And here, there's a huge music scene just down the road in Brighton. But in Eastbourne, everyone just goes to Brighton. And the only music scene here are cover bands. That's it. It's cover bands and karaoke, and that's all you find. So there's loads of pubs and music venues in Eastbourne, but they're all covers. There's nothing original. Which is fine if you like that sort of thing. But, you know, I like that to a point, and then I want to start seeing people being creative in their own stuff. And the problem with an area like this is because it's all covers. If you because I used to book bands here as well when I first moved here. If you book original stuff, everyone's like, what is this shit? I want to listen to Elvis, or I want to listen, you know what I mean? Like the local community just are like, no, we want to listen to what we know. We don't want to listen to new stuff. So it's quite difficult. Do you say you quite like your heavier sort of stuff as well, Mathieu, as well?
Heavier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Have you checked? Do you like instrumental only sort of? Yeah.
I mean, no, I like, but I also like when people sing. So
of course, yeah. But so no. The reason why I ask is, have you heard of a band called Flies Are Spies from Hell? It's a weird name, but
nope.
Check them out. So you recommended me a band. You check them out. Flies Are Spies from Hell. I used to listen to them all the time. I don't know if they've put anything out recently, but it's amazing, like progressive, operatic, epic metal / rock stuff. So check them out. They're really good.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
But yeah. So and Nicolas. So tennis. I didn't know that. You kept that a secret when we spoke before. So what happened there? What was the? Tell me about that.
Yeah. No. I played. Yeah, no, it's
since you were young, you got it.
Yeah, I was young. I was playing, and I was liking the game, so I was playing more, and I was getting good. So I started playing more, and yeah, when I was 15. When I was 15, I kind of stopped school to play full time. I was like,
oh really? Wow.
Yeah, I had like very good results. I was like French number 2 or number 3 of my age. And so I was having this life where I had like kind of school from 8 to 10, and I was training from 10 to like 5 or 6.
Jeez. Wow.
So it was
pretty intense.
living this full-time life, and I did that for 2 years, and then I decided to stop.
What?
So,
why did you decide to stop? Was it just you weren't enjoying it anymore?
yes, I was not enjoying as much as I wanted, and I realized that maybe there were some aspect of having this life that I maybe would not enjoy as much as I thought. So at some point I said but it was quite interesting because it was lots of tournaments, was traveling mostly in France, but it was like, sometimes we would go to the other part of the France play tournament, or I would have play like some of the big international tournaments in France. So no, it was quite interesting. Yeah.
One hell of an experience. So I mean, that's really interesting. So both of you have experienced parts of your life where you, and still with the streaming as well, where you're very clearly a little bit more comfortable than most people in front of a crowd, right? And I find that quite interesting because as an audience, as a founder, that's typically one of the things that people don't have any experience in doing, which I find, and what I typically say, I think you might have been there when we were talking about this before. I was talking about this with someone else at the event. I can't remember. Where I was saying about how one of the things I recommend the most for founders to get comfortable with is public speaking, right? Because if you end up doing it a lot, like right now, speaking to investors, speaking to customers, like all these, making content online, like all of these things. Do you feel like that's given you some sort of advantage in retrospect now that you look back at it, having all of this experience?
I have to make a drop because where I literally screwed up the 1 minute pitch last week.
Oh right. Hey, look, I said feel more comfortable. I didn't say you'd be any good at it. All right.
Yeah.
Where I basically I just screwed up the time, and the thing is we planned to have something where you kind of had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I stopped in the middle because 1 minute passed, and I was like, fuck it. So yeah.
Okay, well, so but were you more comfortable doing it at least?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was too stressed, and most probably that was the main. I mean, I was stressed, obviously, and I've always been. I did like 7 years of theater school when I was younger, so I always got stressed whenever I was going to be on stage. But that stress usually makes the experience better in a sense. Like, it never has been a stress where I was like, oh, I can't perform or I can't do anything. It was just it's this kind of stress that you always have, and when you go on stage, it becomes something a bit nicer. And yeah, I think actually the main problem with that, I started to feel a bit too confident, and so I slowed down my speech.
Right. Okay.
And I made breaks where when we made it before and rehearsed together about the speech, I was just like kind of going through the pitch and through what I wanted to say. And when I did it on the during the event, I said something about streaming and knowing that it would be harder or anything, and I kind of heard some people laughing about what I was saying, and I was like, that's nice. I'm glad it worked. Just kind of like you throw a joke and you get some people, and that kind of bring me down on the speech even more. So
you actually got too comfortable, if anything, by the sounds of it. Yeah.
I mean,
having a time limit is hard. It's very different, and of course, it isn't entirely accurate to how you would be performing in front of investors. Like 1 minute, you've usually got a lot longer than that, right? But it's I think the idea of it is really just to get people used to it. To trying it out for the first time, who've never even given it a try at all before, or never spoken in front of a crowd at all before. So it's useful for that reason, I think.
I think it's a great exercise, and to be honest, the things that I found the most useful is preparing it. Like having to spend time to think about what we want to say, what we think is most important to say.
Especially with that time constraint in mind, right? To think, okay, how can you condense your entire business into under 1 minute? It's a good exercise. Like I quite often will work with clients and do the same sort of thing. And I say, explain to me your business in 1 sentence, and work on it as an exercise, because that's going even further. But it's amazing what it makes you have to do mentally about thinking about your business, isn't it?
It's last time what we're joking about is that we are actually setting good times. So
You're what, selling good times?
yeah, exactly.
Oh, that could be misinterpreted. Be
Yeah,
careful.
but it's just like we ensure that streaming stays as a good
Right.
time and enjoy.
That's when people are going to think that your platform works only with Chatterbait or something like that, and they're going to get a very different idea of what it is you do.
Well, I mean, when we discuss with investors, we get suggestion to go on OnlyFans.
Right.
Yeah,
who
or in the
knows?
phone industry in general.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, I mean, you know, all joking aside, it's a huge industry, and
It is.
and you know, streaming isn't just limited to gaming or all the things that we talked about. There's a hugely diverse range, and yeah, the adult industry is massive for streaming, like you know, like your Chatterbaits and whatever else. So yeah, there are communities around these things too. So who knows what the future holds, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if that's what people want.
It's a part where there is an element where we want to be sure that we are also well suited to talk about the problem we try to solve, which I think there is difference where in the porn industry would be something that we would be a bit further away. However, there is options where if we wanted to kind of expand, there is also like infrastructure. Like what we build is not just something related to specific industries, as we were discussing last time. There is specificity that makes Alicia works in this type of environments, which can be expanded to different type of environment, obviously. But this is also something we can sell even if we don't support officially through our product directly platform. But there is stuff that we can actually help at least you to support in that sense.
Yeah, and I suppose like would you consider white labeling it to certain platforms as well potentially?
Not yet for sure, but
in future maybe
could be an option.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of options open for further down the road. So you never say never, I suppose. And they all. I mean, I would say that these every streamer, regardless of what it is they're streaming, whether it is adult entertainment or gaming or whatever, they all suffer from the same sort of set of problems that you talked about, which is keeping a community engaged and finding the time to do it or whatever it might be, or just starting out, right? That because that's a huge value add. Because I played with streaming. I think everyone played with streaming at some point in their lives. You know, who's into like being. I'm actually considering starting it again, so I might have to ask you for some tips. But that's actually for what's behind me, which I don't think you can see.
It's the art.
My art, yeah.
I saw your video yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Cool. You know, everyone says this, right? So what is it with LinkedIn? No one engages with my content.
I liked it.
Did you? Oh, okay. Thank you.
I did.
Because like the amount of people I met on Thursday, it's like, sorry, I didn't mean to start shouting at you then. But like, so thank you. But Nicolas, did you like it? Did you like my post?
I don't think I've seen.
Okay, I'm going to remove you from the chat. No, so like, the amount of people I saw on Thursday, like, oh, I saw your post, and I was thinking that got like 0 fucking likes, like what? And everyone's telling me they saw it. You know, I'm like, okay. So it just goes to show vanity metrics are not important. It's impressions that count.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah. So I am thinking of signing up again, and yeah. So my point was, you know, from someone who tried it before, I had that exact same thing of just, you know, who are you talking to? You're on your own. It's a very difficult thing, and honestly, I was looking at all of the advice you can find online and everything, and nothing actually ever really mentioned what you mentioned you did there, which is, you know, maybe to start with your friends and family and sort of start trying to build a community that way. There was no advice about how to start building a community. It was just, you know, the technical aspects of building a platform, of joining, and, you know, what kind of content people want, sharing content on other platforms. That was always the recommendation. So and just looking at that and just being like, well, how the fuck am I going to find time for that? Like to record it all and edit it all, and you know, so it in the end it became too much. So
it's exactly the problem we have. So we do a podcast as well with some streamers from the community. So we have this hour or 2 hours chat with them, and that's always the same debate or thing that we talk about. Everything around streaming is just about how to more pressurize the content creator. Either way, you're not streaming enough, or you're not doing it on a regular schedule, or you're not posting on the different channels, or your content is not dynamic enough, and it's constantly on the content creators, where it is not about the content they are creating, it's just all the frame about it. And you're like, the fuck? Like, I mean, what I like is playing saxophone. I don't care about being regular. I don't care about like having 6 hours or challenges around. I just want to be there and sharing my music. The other thing is, do you want to have like a lot of viewers, or do you care about more having the interaction? And to me, for example, in my streaming experience, is I drop the act on trying to build something huge and trying to have like huge numbers of followers and viewers, etc. What I'd like is having people with whom I can interact while I'm streaming. Like I want to pick the saxophone and have someone say like, oh, I heard this song last time. Do you think you could be trying to jam on it or whatever? Oh yeah, I can try, and so we can debate about it later. So having this interaction. Otherwise, I would just do videos. If I want to be streaming, it's because I'd like to have interaction with people.
Well, that's kind of the whole point, isn't it? Like you said, otherwise you would just be uploading videos to YouTube or something, but which in itself has a load of problems anyway. But I think the problem is it's partly to do with the fact that there are so many content creators out there that it creates a lot of choice for people listening. But also, I'm not sure if the platforms are doing a good enough job of making it easy finding these sort of streamers that of a very specific kind. Like, I'm surprised that when you join something like Twitch, it doesn't ask you a lot more questions. To find out what kind of stuff you would like to do and recommend stuff based on that. It's instead trying the algorithm approach like so many other platforms like YouTube, just based on what you're watching. But that isn't always necessarily what it is you're interested in. If you're just presented with a set of choices that are the same as everyone else at the start, well, then you're inevitably going to be following down a similar sort of algorithmic path. So it seems a bit odd. And of course, it's always based on numbers too. So it's always going to recommend the people with the highest views. But like, if I was to say, well, at the beginning, I'm into brass instruments, saxophone, then it should be able to recommend to me anyone that's doing that, regardless of their viewer count or followers or whatever, and give me some options. But it's not quite doing that. Maybe it will, I don't know. But
it's the discoverability on Twitch is, I think, one of the worst one. And actually, they literally, I'm hopeful that they would kill at some point.
No, they're doing changes now. Like, they're starting their new kind of and I would say so they're kind of catching up on the social network with creating the kind of own feed of videos like taken from the clips, because they're like this easy way to create short content, and then now they're creating this kind of recommendation system where you watch all these clips and then you can discover more easily new streamers. But it's still, I feel like they try things, but they don't really try hard enough. Like, they've created some new, I would say, section where they say how discover smaller community or discover new streamer from these things you've watched recently. But then it feels like you have to scroll down a lot to find those categories, so you technically never find them. And then when you look at what's recommended, you're like, yes, well, they say small community, but these people already have 50 viewers. So for Twitch, they're not small. And even from the community, from things I've watched recently, then I will have things that have not watched, but they're like pushed so high by the algorithm that they're still here. And there are other people who are like, I'm not interested.
But it must be very, very hard to introduce these kinds of elements into a platform so big, right? With so many, users and so on. Like, I can kind of sympathize with the challenge as well. That introducing these things, because they're incredibly disruptive whenever you introduce a new feature like this to such a user base. And to try and make it work, it's near impossible, because you also don't want to upset your big creators too and divert attention away from them. You can't please everyone, I suppose. Right?
I think it's a thing that I'm trying to change a bit, because yes, if no one likes changes, so if you introduce something new, people are going to complain about what you just introduced. But the thing is, Twitch is really community based. The content creators are very involved in the platform and trying to kind of help as much as they can. There is rooms where they can give their ideas and kind of chat and give suggestion as well, or camp where they will have interaction with the Twitch community or Twitch at least employee at this point, but it hasn't been really actionated. Now it seems like it started to be a bit, but just recently, like I think 6 months ago or something like this, someone from our community went to one of this meeting and literally Twitch said, if you want discoverability, Twitch is not the platform for you. So it's like, so you won't do anything to help us reach a different audience.
Mm.
No, you have to get it from YouTube, from Instagram, from TikTok, thing like
That's
this.
a full-time job. I mean, that isn't practical. Like, streaming should be something that anyone could do and start building a community when they're running have a family, have a full-time job, and they should be able to do it. Not necessarily to the level where they can make money from it, but at least where they can enjoy it as a hobby and not feel like they're just banging their head up against a wall. Like you said, like you aim for a small community of people, even if it was to just be able to, guarantee that they'd be able to get 20 eyes every time someone was streaming within a period of, let's say, 3 months. Like that would be enough, I think, for most people to feel good, like someone drawing or something, whatever it might be.
It's something to also be aware. There is some numbers where Twitch is not communicating very largely about those numbers, but you have to see that it's 97 or 98%, can't remember, Nico, but something like this, of the streamers, monthly active streamers on Twitch, they average below 5 viewers. So, and we're talking about, so currently the numbers are about 7.6 million monthly active viewers, streamers. And so it's huge. And if you take that, the last 2 or 3 persons in these numbers, still majority of people can't live out of Twitch. It's going to be something else.
Is it also maybe a reality that we need to come to terms with, that people are far more interested in being creators than consumers? Like, is there an element of that too? That in fact, there's more of us that are narcissists than passive consumers, because like that number tells me that the vast majority of people who would watch other people on Twitch have just decided to become Twitch streamers, and there isn't enough of a user base, because you don't have that issue on other platforms. Yeah. But there are presumably way more content creators on Twitch than a lot of other platforms, right?
I guess it's just that it feels easier to start streaming on Twitch. You just need to install one broadcasting software,
and away you go.
And there you go.
Yeah.
Whereas if you want to do content creation on YouTube, you have to do recording, editing, all these things, and the barrier is, I would say, is more difficult to overcome. Whereas on Twitch, there are people they start their PS5 and they have an option to go live on Twitch, and so they just click one button and they're live on Twitch. So
and no one's going to watch it.
And no one's going to watch it.
Yeah. And in some ways, I think that's a mistake of Twitch to make it so easy, because I've seen that option when I've played, on my PlayStation. I just think, well, what's the point of me going live? No one knows who I am. No one's going to discover this. But if you give everyone the ability to be a content creator, you oversaturate the market. There's too much choice, and also it becomes homogenized, like I talked about earlier. Like, if everyone who's sitting down playing of Call of Duty, let's say 100 people sit down and play Call of Duty, and 60% of them go, yeah, okay, I'll Twitch on stream. Well, that's too many people streaming Call of Duty who are probably amateurs. Like, you know what I mean? You're not. There's no quality control there. The community needs to, in some ways, level the playing field by dictating what does and doesn't qualify as worthy of being on the platform to a degree, right? Or is that a non-democratic view? I don't know. Like, should anyone be able to do it?
I think everyone should be able to go live if they want to. The main problem is pushing for. Like, it doesn't has to be. Like, it is. There is a point where there is this kind of phantasma about like being a content creator on Twitch and being live on Twitch, where people are not talking about the downsides. And like, you can always say, I don't care about the numbers, but how it affects your mind and your mental well-being around, okay, I've been streaming 6 hours and no one just ever came on my stream.
Right,
this is going to be a tool that no one is going to talk about unless they really have been affected about it. So Twitch is pushing content creators or new content creators to go on the platform and start streaming, because it's also a source of viewers. Because yes, it is a lot of content creators on the platform, but nothing says that you can't be also a viewer. Like, you will enjoy the other content creators' content, even if you do if you are sometime live on Twitch. So it's not a problem to have that many content creators. I think the main problem for me is kind of lying or hiding how basically it's going to affect you if you really want to start streaming. So it's something where everyone is saying like, oh, it's just pleasure, it's joy, everyone is happy. But no, actually there is some element to take in consideration. being live, there is some risk as well. Like you're really live on internet and everyone can just see where you are. Like a lot of people, for example, will question, do I put a window, or how do I protect my window to not be visible on stream? Because even if you have 2 viewers, you might just have the wrong ones.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's really a problem to not put buyer to go on Twitch, but I think it's wrong not to say that there is counterpart as soon as you start streaming.
So do you think there should be, it shouldn't be as easy to get in the sense that there should be a bit more of an education and onboarding process, perhaps before just allowing anyone to stream, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it's also based on how young like this type of things are. It has been a taboo for years and years and years around streaming industry. Not saying that a lot of the biggest content creators were completely in burnouts, having to produce more and more and more. And so some of them started to talk about that. I think specifically during lockdown. But it has been something that no one was saying. It's just like, hey, it's a happy life. Like it's Instagram, but around like all the things related to content creators. So everything is fine, and you can't ever say that it is bad. But there is a bad side, and because people just started to talk about it, it's still not very well known that you will have all of this problem.
Well, especially when money comes into the equation, because when it does become someone's full-time job, the pressure to ensure that the audience is maintained suddenly becomes incredibly huge, right?
Yeah.
Especially when sponsors are involved and someone who demands that the numbers increase as opposed to go down, or view time increases as opposed to go down. I mean, that's when typically you see a lot of these content creators burn out, isn't it?
Yeah.
When that starts to become a factor, it turns from a hobby into a job, like you said, Nico. Like, you know, that's when the passion can go from something that you used to enjoy doing. Like I follow, like most people in the world, I think, follow PewDiePie, and I followed him over his journey over the years. And, you know, to go from someone who used to play, you know, do Let's Plays on YouTube of horror games, you know, to now very publicly, I mean, basically he does a vlog now, right? He doesn't really do any of that as much, but, you know, he's openly said at some point it was just him playing a character, and, you know, you can't keep pretending, you know? and I think that's the problem for a lot of people as well, is there's a persona that you have to put on for a lot of people, because of if you start streaming at 20, well, you're going to be very different by the time you're 25. But people fell in love with you when you were 20, so it's like, you know, how long can you keep that up for?
And being able to manage transition if you want to do a transition. So,
The other thing, because we talked about the creator burnout for like bigger streamers, but it's the same for the smaller one, because there is this kind of, I think for me it's more real, like kind of try to set there be the soul, the lie, where, you know, hey, just go live on Twitch and who knows, maybe you can go viral, and then it becomes your job. The reality is, if you start streaming, it's very likely that you will never make it a job. Maybe you can grow it to a point where maybe over your life on Twitch you make £500, £1,000 if you're doing quite well.
Do you know what I think it's a lot like? I think it's a lot like what wanting to be a footballer was like back in the day. Right?
Exactly, it's the same. It's
because every kid wants to be
and that's the same
content creator, and it's like, well, you're probably not going to make it, because now the difference is it's like that, but with if football had like 500 different leagues to take part in, because now you don't just have one. It's not like there's just a Premier League and you know, whatever. It's in streaming. There are so many different genres, so many different platforms, so many different avenues you can go down to be a content creator or a streamer, that it's like, well, you know, fucking hell, your chances are even lower, you know.
And it's coming back to what you were saying around content quality, because a lot of people that start creating content, they don't create content because they want to, or they have something that they feel like, oh, I have these big cool things I'm doing and I want to share it with everyone else. Right. It's more like, hey, I've read that content creator can make up to millions of dollars. So you know what? I'm going to start my channel and I'm going to play Fortnite, because Fortnite is the game that gets the most people during that time. And they'll do this kind of same stream that everyone is doing, because everyone is kind of pushing for the same ideal. And those people, they're just setting themselves for failure, because they're potentially not doing something they like. They'll be pushing hours because they have this kind of dream of becoming content creator, where it's almost impossible to become a content creator.
Mm.
And in the end, they're just burned out from the experience because they'll be following all the very productivist advice telling you, hey, you're not doing enough.
Mm.
And they'll be just like, yeah, I was a streamer, it was not great, and they'll stop.
Yeah, it's funny as well because specifically for video games, I feel like you probably got a higher chance of success if you were to decide to become a pro player of a computer game rather than try and be successful in streaming the game. Like it's still very difficult, but there aren't as many people trying to become a pro gamer and what I mean by that is studying the game, learning to be better at the game, as opposed to focusing also on streaming and entertaining and building a community, which are two very different things in my view. Actually really concentrating on getting good at something in one direction is very different from being spread across wanting to play and make it entertaining and build a community. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like trying to play football in order to entertain a crowd compared to trying to play football because you want to go pro and you want to get better at the game from a skill perspective.
I think it also goes down to what you're actually doing, because if you take like video games and you want to be professional at it, you train for it, you learn about it, how it works, and you kind of work for that. When you go to content creation, specifically on Twitch, it's not really about, it is part about what you're doing, but if you just really want to make it, and you kind of not really look into the content that you do, what you should be studying is marketing. It's not really about what you're creating. It's how you can market yourself, how you can create your brand, and make sure that you basically do that properly, like a job, because it's going to be a job. In that sense, the thing is, I think there is like a different part where you can just be streaming because it's nice to do, and you will create this community, and you shouldn't be focused on this productivist aspect of the marketing and make sure that everything is growing. Main problem is not that, it's most probably like 95% of the time, if it's not more, it's not going to work for most of the people. It's just that people don't talk about that. Like if you want to stream, like nothing should stop you to be able to do it, but just do this knowing that it most probably won't make you a billionaire or millionaire, or it's most probably not going to pay your next meal even. So just do this because you'd like to be online, sharing what you love, and create a community around what you're doing. If it's for something else, if you're pursuing like a money or a different kind of fame in a sense, just be aware of how hard it's going to be. And it's not for everyone. Might be, I might be wrong. Again, it's not. I'm not like full of truth for that, but it's just, to me, you should be aware of it. And if it's not what you really want to do and spend like hours and hours concentrating on marketing and doing all the content around that, like it's most probably not going to work ever.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose that's true with most things. If that is your reason for starting anything, then it's probably not going to work as well, right? If you're chasing that kind of, if it's clout, fame, or money, you know, people have a good sixth sense for your reason for entering into something, right? And I think that comes across, you know, very obviously. So I think that would be the same for pretty much anything. But it's just such a shame because it's interesting that you also have this conversation a lot with content creators in your podcast, because if I imagine it's hugely problematic, but then also made furtherly increasingly frustrated by content creators who do ridiculous things in order to gain attention, and it fucking works. And that I find incredibly frustrating. But I guess, you know, and what's even more frustrating about that, there's sort of two sides to it. It's frustrating because it works and it actually does gain a huge amount of interest. And we've seen some people do insane things and get attention for it, commit crimes and get attention for it, you know, things like that. But on the other side of it, what's really frustrating as well is that the content creators themselves don't tend to realize that it's a zero-sum game, that they've created attention for themselves, but it's attention that won't last. It's not meaningful. They've not built a meaningful community. So you've got the limelight now, you've achieved your goal for now, but it's not got longevity. So give it another year and you'll be forgotten about. So it wasn't worth it. It's like, you know, they entered the cheat codes to get the attention, but they're going to get none of the results or benefits from it. You know, you'll either end up in prison or just a meme on the internet for life, like the Island Boys or whatever the fuck else, you know, out there. And that must be very frustrating for some of the streamers that you speak with, that there are those that capitalize on controversy in order to gain attention, compared to people who have talent, that deserve that attention far more.
Yeah.
You know? Like the hot tub girls was a big thing on Twitch, or what? Is that still a thing?
I don't.
And the category still exists.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Oh my god! I thought they were banning that. I thought they were getting rid of it.
No. It brings too much money. So
we have a quick story from that.
Oh really?
Oh, it's just I mean,
Did you guys do a stream in a hot tub?
No. What
we would get banned.
Yeah, we would definitely.
It might be a good way of publicizing the platform, though.
No, what we've
24-hour stream in a hot tub to advertise Lisa. That would be amazing.
Playing saxophone and piano at the same time. No, we do pianophone together, so he plays piano and I'm playing saxophone.
Yeah, not in the hot tub with the piano. That's a bit dangerous.
The hot tub. Yeah. No, what happened is, and I think it's more kind of something that frustrates me than anything. But so first with Alicia, it's really into like you have the Alicia you want as a streamer, and on Twitch you have basically adults that like to talk about different subjects, and not specifically in a controversial way, but just adult talks. And that's something which Twitch is not really very fond about. Specifically, if you have, for example, an AI bot or an AI companion directly in the chat, where we know that we need to be extremely careful with it, because even if we wanted to let the streamers have full control and being able to do whatever they want, and so having a personality of someone who would be able to talk about like sexuality or things like this, we actually would be extremely putting us at risk to do it. Twitch would not let it happen.
Yeah,
and that's something which is it's frustrating in a sense, where you can have a lot of different contents which might in some aspect break the T's and C's, but if you are building a product around Twitch, you should be extremely careful. That's for anyone, like it's for anyone who's trying to build something for Twitch. There is like flexible rules around that. If you build a product, it's not flexible, and don't try out, like really.
A friendly reminder to share this episode with your network, like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the show and only takes a couple of minutes.
Does that include like conversations around like political topics and things like that as well? Like, do you have to be careful about how Alicia could interact in those situations too, or you know? It
depends what you consider political. Like
about gender politics or race and things like that, things that are very big on and a lot of streamers will spend their time just talking about these issues. It's be controversial because they want to have open debates and conversations. So like, do you have to be quite careful and considerate about how it interacts with that? Has that something you had to come across before?
Not at least we didn't have a problem before, that's for sure. There is aspect where I'd be careful on what the streamer has set inside the personality before starting a debate like this. We have moderation in place to detect anything that would be hatred, for example.
Right.
So we know that we would be at least sure that nothing is going to be posted by Alicia, but that might mean that nothing is going to be posted by Alicia for the whole stream.
Right. Yeah, she won't just be quiet.
Exactly.
Which in some debates is probably a very sensible thing to do in 2023. So she doesn't get cancelled. Yeah. Okay.
For us, at least at the stage that we are, we can't take the risk to like be too close to any limits.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that this is like okay.
Yeah. So just play it safe for now and just have Alicia sit it out, kind of thing. Makes sense. But because you guys started building the platform before ChatGPT was a thing, right? So you built essentially a language model, right? Is that how it's built? So what's the framework in which Alicia's built upon?
So we started basically with GPT-3, which was before ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is 3.5. So we used not ChatGPT but GPT-3. And realizing that it won't work as we expect it to be working. So the main things that we've been doing around models is basically blending them together. Basically, his main problem is that all of the technologies that we have now is built on human AI interaction. So it's a one-to-one type of interaction. A stream is chaos. Sorry. It is, everything is everywhere. There is events coming from Twitch, from the viewers, and from the streamers. And that's if you stop there, because we also look into adding some video input and stuff like this. And you have to treat all this data to make something understandable to something that will help the generation and of what Alicia is going to say, what Alicia thinks about what she's going to say, stuff like this. And you can't do that with just one model. So you have to blend them together to make it happen.
And does it learn from interactions at the moment?
That's a tricky question later. So we basically have the a very unstable version of Alicia, which is learning 3 times.
Okay.
So it is basically, it's only on my channel, on Nico's for now.
Right.
And we see very good results on how it works. The main problem we have currently is that it's not stable enough to be we would be back in March this year, where we would have to be awake on every stream and look and make sure that Alicia join and specifically doesn't leave.
Yeah. See, and you don't want to be going through that again at this stage. So
We can't.
We can't.
I mean, we can't. Like, there's too many streams. Like, to tell you, we had an issue with one of our new release recently, because we had something that we left. We said, "Oh, there's that thing. We need to look at it once we cross the bar of 100 concurrent users." And I think, yeah, the day we reach that, it means we're doing things good. And we didn't realize we had crossed that limit. And so we deploy something, and we know, and when it happens, Alicia posts message saying, "Hey, I'm going to update myself, be right back," and never came back. And then realized that and say, "Oh, I have to make her join manually on all the channel." And it was technically only 15 streamers at that time. But I had to go through the list and find, okay, who is live, who I have to make rejoin, and then make Alicia rejoin all the chat. And like, it's just that. It's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes just to watch over the thing. And we have tooling now that's help us kind of navigate those things. But it's still like if you were, I don't know, like a Saturday night and we had this kind of problem, that would be a nightmare to handle. And we wouldn't be able to monitor streams to see, something went wrong.
Yeah, you almost need to create another piece of AI to do that job.
Yeah.
That's the next thing to do, right? Create an AI workforce.
Yeah.
An AI product with an AI workforce. That's the future.
Yeah.
But you know what? One of the reasons why I love working with tech founders as well, and just working in this space in general, is because most people, the general everyday public, have this perception that a lot of the technology they use day to day is like magic, right? Yeah. And it's only when you're speaking to tech founders that they reveal that there's a lot of like manual, like behind the scenes, like things are held together with sellotape and string, and like, you know, we're pulling levers, and it's like, it's the imitation of magic, but really behind the scenes, it's just fucking madness, you know? And I love that scrappiness about it, you know, that like you're having to go in and make the AI join back in again and like usher it in. It's like, come on, you're up, you need to go on stage, you know, like that kind of thing, you know.
It is beautiful. Actually a magician. Like it is not magic, but we make it like looks like it. But for the learning thing, which is a story I think I'm saying every time. But when we test Alicia, and specifically a very new version like this one, we try really to push into a corner. So we kind of play this game where there is a good and bad cop, in essence. So we kind of push to make sure that there is no not too much fightbacks in the response, to make sure that we don't have any trouble in the future. And so we were trying this on my channel, which I wasn't online, and we were just on my chat. And so Nico was playing the bad cop, and I was playing the good cop. And we really went, of course, it's my channel, okay?
You've got a reputation, you know?
Yeah. So we were pushing her, and so she was basically remembering all of this, creating memories about it, and what we love to call like the reverie about it. And what happened is that a few days after, I went to a more stable version, to this version of Alicia, That's great. Let's just go live and try it out, which I did. But what I forgot is to wipe the memory. So I went live, everything went fine, and Jellab joined.
I arrived, and she was so upset. Alicia was extremely upset I was there. She wouldn't talk to me, and she would keep warning Mathieu that, hey, this guy is a troublemaker. You should keep him inside.
She asked you to leave. Like it was.
Yeah,
Wow, that's brilliant.
I had
So-
to do formal apologies for
Mm,
Alicia
so-
to accept.
Really?
talking
Did you have
back
to
me.
apologize?
Yes, yes.
So what, like say I'm sorry for my behavior yesterday?
Oh, I had to send like a text wall of apologies and stuff, and how I'll behave from now on.
That's brilliant.
It works. It works. She accepted.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
but she reminded me that we're not friends. I accept you, but we're not friends.
So yeah, that was quite funny.
AI is so strange, isn't it? The sort of feeling that it creates in people, and with those sort of interactions, because it's amusing, because we know it's not a real thing. In the same way, like you know, if a I don't know, like a puppy looks, behave or reacts to a moment that is otherwise a human moment to react to, then it makes us laugh, because we're like, you know, how should it couldn't have known that. There's some weird sort of attributes that we assign to AI in ways that are, you know, can be amusing but also equally scary, aren't there? Do you obviously there's a huge conversation around AI, and we won't get into all of the doom and gloom of that, because I think it's been talked to death by most people already, to be honest, and I think everyone's kind of on the same page of just like, well, look, we're going to be doing it anyway, so just shut the fuck up, right? But where do you guys stand on the debate around, or the conversation around, the sort of ethical responsibilities of creating any kind of AI? Because that is something I think that is important, similar to the issue we were just talking about, you know, the policies of Twitch, and how, you know, you've got to have Alicia kind of just disengage from certain conversations. How are you? Maybe it's not a problem for you, but are you cognizant or thinking about how to ensure that there isn't any type of bias in Alicia's sort of interactions, or, you know, things like that, or picking up on any sort of ethical stances, and just remaining neutral? Like, how are you guys approaching that, or are you even approaching that? Is it not to that point yet?
So it's stuff that we talked about. So first of all, for technical bias, first we depends on different LLMs. So
Right.
those technical bias currently will be around what they do. We know that how we want to make Alicia works is we will at some point, and hopefully in the near future, having some sort of our own version of a trained model with the data that we want, and so we can have some things that will look a bit more towards what we want to achieve with Alicia.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other one, for how it works, because there is a lot of discussion about how far we are going with AI currently and how it works. Currently, to me, there is misleading elements where they are very convincing when you write to this kind of thing, so ChatGPT, Alicia, or other type of AI, but we're still far away. Like it's very far from being able to really have a consciousness. It's faking it very well.
Oh yeah.
It's incredible to do that, but it's very far away. So I don't think we're close to this debate. I think it's good that it happens, so people can start theorizing how we can make it good later. But I don't think it should be the main concern, and at least for us at this stage.
Sure. But like, so for example, like, let's talk about the model that you're working with, this learning, right? And how it didn't like Nico very much because it, you know, you bullied her for a little bit. Like, you know, what's just, you know, what measures can be put in place into a model like that can learn to say, okay, well, just because you had that experience with Nico, don't suddenly decide that every white French man that you interact with, like, or anyone with this particular type of you know, username, like combination of letters, like, what's to say that it wouldn't sort of start picking up and start seeing patterns, and then make a decision to say, okay, anyone with Nick in the name, like, for example, I'm just going to treat like an outcast. You know, are there ways of doing that? Because look, I don't build these things for a living, you guys do. So because I think that's a worry a lot of people, is like, these things, because they're machines, they are going to be binary in their reactions to some things. So
Yeah.
if it's decided it doesn't like Nick, okay, it doesn't like all Nicks now, and that can, if you extrapolate that can get you to some pretty dangerous places, right?
Yeah, I think the main element is comes to how our brain works in general, where
Right.
if, for example, Jellab is going to excuse me, Jellab, you're the cobaye for that. But
I mean, I'm the bad cop, so I'm used to these bad treatments.
I think if anything, Alicia should be offering you a lot of sympathy. Maybe feed her this conversation so that she feels better about the whole situation.
Well,
Yeah.
I've asked her a couple of times if she will spare my life when machines take over, and she said no promises.
So it's a thing where if Nico, for example, bully you or harass you or whatever, you will remember that this person has been mean to you, and so the main element is recognizing like the identity of the event, where this is coming from, and is it like a general element or not. So in the same ways that you have past experience that will define that you had good time with other humans, it's not because you have one bad experience that all humans are going to be bad. It's how you identify this type of events to make sure that it doesn't spread out as the main kind of behavior for humans. So you know that Jellab, for example, was mean to Alicia. Doesn't mean that Jellabi is going to be someone mean. It's going to be like the identification of what the event is and where it's coming from.
Yeah, and I think that's the concern for a lot of people. It's just understanding that, and because we're basing this idea on the way humans work, which is that you can have people do make assumptions based on a single interaction, and so they're concerned that this is also how machines may work, and also based on the data that's already been given. Right, and how it's going to make assumptions there, or especially if they're language models, with and it's using language based out on the internet, for example. Well, there's unfortunately a lot of very hateful, biased information out there. So, how is it going to be neutral on that? So, what about we joked a minute ago about AI workers for your company, but I'm curious, when do you think we'll see our first fully AI content creators? Because we're almost there, right?
It is already there.
It is already there.
Yeah, I don't have the name, but it's
okay. Well, more specifically, streamers, because I don't think there are any streamers.
There are streams that are fully AI generated. We met one of the
the creators at the
I've seen the Simpsons one, and I've heard about the Seinfeld one. But is that what you mean, or do you mean like actual avatars that are?
These kind of things are fully AI generated, right?
Yeah.
There's been the Trump versus Biden channel. There's been, there's been AI Jesus as well. So all these things have been there, and so it's.
And there is now like kind of VTubers AI as well, as I've seen popping up. And another one which is way smaller, but I remember like checking their streams. It's the Dragon's Lair, right? The one with the investors.
Dragon's Den.
Dragon's Den. It is a fully generated AI Dragon's Den. And so you have like it's on the video game model, so you have a lot of like it's inside a proper castle, and so there is people playing the full chair, and you have basically 5 AI talking to each other, and one is pitching to 4 investors, and 4 investors AI. And
that must be quite funny to watch.
It is actually quite fun. I don't know if it's still live. I should ask the creator, but this one, for example, is fully AI as well, and it's not really into representing like Jesus or any known character, because it's all fictional. It's just the concept of the Dragon Den.
Yeah, the premise is the same. Yeah. But are there so VTubers that are like you said? That's interesting.
Yeah,
because I've not seen them. I know that there have been AI generated models. I've seen those, or those like computer generated content creators that have been out there like for a little while, but I've not seen any actually running a stream and running an avatar. I've not seen that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I would need to like get you the name because I don't have it out of my mind, but I know there is one for sure.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Do you think that's kind of the new wave that's coming of content creation, or do you think that the consumers are always going to be more interested in humans?
So there is an experiment where specifically for this YouTuber, because there is one YouTuber that just did that. He had a big audience and changed himself with a fully AI generated content. So you have, like, I'm guessing the writer script still before, but so it's entirely AI generated. It dropped, like, a lot of subscribers just dropped and didn't want to see that. But it actually, I just let it leave, and at some point, like, new subscribers came in and starting to grow again. And what he did is just created another channel which didn't have the history of the first one, and this one is working even like faster because it doesn't have all the history of the previous one with a normal, like with a human at the beginning. So it is. I think it's going to happen. It doesn't mean that it's going to be bad content or anything. The big question is, do we want to see generated content by AI, or is there really a problem about saying generated content? Or it's more this. I think it's in the same way that it has to be clear when you start streaming that it's going to be hard. I wouldn't like to know that what I just watched has been generated by an AI if I didn't realize it myself. So I would like to know before.
It would have to be a disclaimer or something somewhere to say. But that's interesting because it almost throws up a weirdly philosophical debate of, like, what is the purpose of consuming streaming or even doing streaming if the entire thing is artificial? Because whatever it is, the type of content I think people are putting out there, the reason why people generally like to consume streamed content is because of connection.
Yeah.
And feeling like you're part of a community. Maybe there's a shared interest like the saxophone or video games or whatever. If the human element is pulled out, then that entire exchange feels very reductive.
Yeah.
Right? In some ways. Like what is it that really anyone's getting out of that? And I find that really interesting. What is the purpose of that?
Yeah. I think to me it's going to be the question for the next year, because what we've seen is the fully generated content on AI on Twitch, or at least the one that are not just one creator who has been generating a persona of an AI, etc., but just, like, for example, Jesus or Trump versus Biden and things like this. The viewership drops with time.
Yeah,
it's like
because it's curiosity, and then it goes. Yeah.
I haven't seen currently any Twitch content creator fully AI, which I can tell like it's going to last.
Yeah.
But for YouTube, it's different, because you create a content that you can polish in advance, and it's one piece of content. Where for now AI, it's not going to be able to evolve through the stream. So if you do like 3-hour streamings, you can make it goes in a loop quite easily. So it depends how the AI are going to evolve and how it's going to be integrated. But currently, YouTube, to me, the first block, or at least non-live content, and we'll see how it goes. We already have a lot of blog posts that has been written by AI. Most of them are kind of. And
well, yeah, fucking 2023. You can guarantee every blog post written in 2023 is written by ChatGPT.
Yeah. So it's a thing on what's going to happen for the other source of content, like videos, music, stuff like this. To me, there is a part where AI should be a help. Like, if it helps you to do it, like, it should serve human to help you to achieve what you want to achieve, and that's all. So it shouldn't be a problem to generate stuff with AI if you were the main input of, if you kind of guided it to the right direction. When it's coming to a fully generated AI, I don't know if I really want to see it. I still, maybe I will. I mean, I'm saying that now, and talk to me in a year and I'll be watching all the AI generated content on YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just right now.
We'll all be watching Friends season 5000. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
yeah.
I think AI is very good at helping you with the tedious stuff.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, like the blog post or even sometimes LinkedIn post,
Yeah.
For us, we know it's things we have to do, but we also know that we have so many hours in a week to do things.
Mm.
And if I can save 2 hours on my writing the blog post I have to write by helping me and saying, hey, this is the content I want to share. These are the interesting ideas, and please make nice sentences for me.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it because I know that information is shared. I've said what I need to share, and I've saved 2 hours. Save 2 hours to do more customer service or develop new features, do new thing in it, and it's fine.
Yeah, I think your guys' stance is very similar to mine and a lot of people's, which is it's quite useful in a lot of areas right now to either get you going on something.
Yeah.
So like ideation. So I haven't used it for a while actually, but I used to use ChatGPT, for example, quite a lot to just give me a load of ideas for something. So like blog posts or LinkedIn post ideas. Like I want to talk about this topic. Give me some ideas of how I can start, and then it gives you a framework, and then, okay, give me an example of what that could look like. All right. And then I go in and I play around with it. Or the other end, which is finishing and polishing things too. Because I think now we're getting to that territory where AI can come in and just put the finishing touches on things, because there's enough information there to know where you're going, what you're going for, what you're trying to achieve. So it can come in for that. So I view it quite a lot like CGI in movies. Where CGI, if it's overused in a film, then it can take you out of it. You haven't got that experience. There's an over reliance on that technology, which removes a human sort of warmth to something. But if it's used as a tool, just like other tools that a filmmaker has at their disposal to make a film, and it's used subtly, then it can elevate things, but not take them over. So I suppose for me, at least, that's kind of similar sort of thing. And like with music, a great example, like, there's a lot of software you can use in music, and there always has been. But if you use too much auto-tune, it sounds shit.
Yeah.
Right? Unless it's reggaeton, obviously, in which case then it has to be auto-tuned to fuck. But
I thought you were saying it will sound shit anyway.
It depends what you're into.
Great enemies here.
Yeah. Apologies to any reggaeton fans listening.
It's for the joke only.
Yeah, all one reggaeton fan listening to this right now. Yeah. Sorry to you. So, but yeah. Well, look, we're coming towards the sort of end portion now of our talk already, which is insane. I don't know where that time's gone.
Fine, really.
Yeah, it's flying by. And this is the thing, whenever I have to, I think this might be the second time I've had two people on at the same time, and it's always interesting because I feel like what I should probably do when there's two people on is double the time, because there's like double the amount of story and double the amount of interesting conversation to be had. But we'll just have to do it again in the future, for sure. But what I like to do more towards the end is get your because as you know, the vast majority of the people that listen to this are other founders and entrepreneurs and investors and things like that, but majority founders and entrepreneurs. So I like to end with some tips from my guests. But what I would like to do is actually ask for a very specific sort of area of tips, because of everyone kind of, I think we all have a similar sort of vibe on tips we want to give, work hard and all that sort of shit. But we know that building a community of founders and networking and all this sort of stuff is really important. But you guys are really interesting because of your business has very heavily relied on community, and building a community around your product. And this is something that time and time again I think is talked about. I know I talk a lot with founders about doing that. What would you say are some tips around achieving that as an early stage business, as a startup? Could you speak to that? Do you both have some thoughts you want to share there? Some tips you could maybe give?
Yeah. I think what was the trigger specifically for us is we are not trying to sell them anything at the beginning, at least. That's we're genuine on the approach. Like, again, the product Alicia has been built for my channel, not for anyone else. And we build it knowing what the challenges are around streaming. And so when we start contacting them and having to build up the community around it, it's because we genuinely want their feedback. It's not because we absolutely want them to pay and get another subscription, which usually will happen at some point. But the main thing is, it's let's build it together. We know there is this problem, so let's do that together. We're not Like, we're not outside of it. We're just like in it together to try to make it happen for all the streaming community. And that, I think, it's in a more like general advice. Building a company is not like something you'll do easily. Find something that you really trust in, like you believe in, and you're passionate about, if it's possible at least. But it's because that gives you also the rest of the energy. I know how many hours we work, and I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't something that I really believe in.
Good advice. What about you, Nicolas? Do you have any advice?
Yeah, I think there is a bit of similarity. I think one of the things that really comes out from whenever we chatted with streamers is how passionate we sound,
Right.
and how we are able to share that passion. Like we're not salespersons.
Yeah.
I'm sure we probably both prefer not to talk to people than to talk to people. But when it comes to Alicia,
no offense taken, thank you.
But when it comes to Alicia, I don't know. We just transforming. We're just so happy we've made it, and we're so happy to share it with people that they just tell us, "Wow, it sounds so great." And I'm kind of sold with, yeah, we haven't sold anything. We just said, "Hey, this is why we created it." And so I think that's the thing. It's if possible, because it's not every product you're able to have this kind of founding story where, yeah, I've created for myself and then build it with a friend, and now I'm sharing it with people. It's kind of luck in some way. It's just that we have that, and we've decided that it's what we want to share with people. And then I guess on the community side, it's whenever we started to have a bit of activity in our community, we decided to stimulate the community as well by creating an open roadmap where people can vote for things or add new ideas, and they see very regularly that these items they voted for and they suggested, they're getting added. And so they
can see that they have an impact.
Yes. And so probably from the moment we had like an open roadmap from July, I think more than 50% of the thing we've released come from that open roadmap from user suggestions. So it's, for us, that was very important, but also it made sense. We said, hey, from the start, it come back to the first try we made where, we built it too much for Matthew's channel, and so it doesn't work in non-Matthew's channel.
Yeah.
And so it's the same, like we built it more for music streamers at first because it was the user we had, so it was the user feedback we had. And so for gaming channels was not as great. So we gathered feedback and corrected it, and that's the thing. It's like we know where we want to go, but we also know we don't know everything, and that probably our users know better than us what they want. And I guess that's accepting the fact that we don't know everything, and we can be wrong, and we can have better ideas coming from the community as well.
Yeah,
I think that's a really important insight, because if it's very easy to get married to your idea and your product and the features and all of that, but actually be accepting that once it's in the hands of the users, which is why it's so important to get it in the hands of the users as soon as possible, right? Everyone always talks about that. It's, this idea of it's good enough, get them to use it, because as soon as they are, then that feedback is going to be invaluable. But I really like what you're saying, Mathieu, because of it as well, because it also ties into what we were saying earlier, like about the reasons for wanting to be a streamer, is if you're doing it with this idea of fame and money and so what, people will see through that bullshit. And if you're offering this your platform out there to people, like you said, because you just want them to give you money for it, well, then you're probably not going to get the right people that you need right now in order to get feedback. But it does beg one last question, which I will ask though, which is, if you guys find that is the best approach for right now, how are you going to manage when you just need to sell it to people?
we don't actually have to sell it. That's the main thing, because what we realize is our
viral.
Yeah, the way that people discover us is just by seeing a different Twitch channel.
Right, word of mouth. Yeah.
But we actually don't go out there and do like big communication. We have like YouTube channel to explain how it works. We write blog posts and stuff like this. And it's a fair bunch of the leads that we get to Alicia are coming from those different funnel. So blog posts, videos, social media. In the same way that you would do that for your own Twitch channel, you have to use this platform to basically help you getting people. But the best way we can talk about it is by not talking about it. It's by having people seeing how it works and having their friends streaming saying like, hey, I've used that and it's great. So the main, that's one of the big conversations we had also with different people and people that were advising us on different elements, where a lot of people say, just take a loan and go for marketing and spend all the money to kind of build a big marketing program to get people to use it. Like, okay, we know, for example, the best element for us is to make sure that the product is on point, because we won't need to spend this 10K to marketing if we have people talking about it. 10K to marketing are going to go for Instagram, Facebook, the same, but Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever. But it's not going to be any value for us. It's just money that we're going to throw away if we don't have the product that people will see value in it. And currently, this product is being talked about by our current users. So that's the main thing. And
that is I think one of the biggest reasons, as well as the feedback reason, as to why building a community is so important for a startup. And that's why I wanted to ask you specifically about this, because I think it's such an important area that more founders need to be focused on, especially in the early stages. That you don't need to be focusing on marketing. You don't necessarily even need to be focusing on sales. You need to be focused on community building at the early stages, because for me, that's part of the same sort of commercial journey. Like, it's part of the customer journey, and it's a very important one. So really, really interesting, and great job that you guys are doing. So keep it up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll let you both go because that's the end of our time, and I know you've got AI to tame and to get let out of its cage and train it and all the other stuff that you need to do with the AI, like with your magic that you do. So I'll let you continue doing that. But it's been great seeing you both again. Thank you so much for your time and being generous with your time and telling me about everything that's been going on. And I look forward to catching up again really, really soon and hearing the progress of what's next. You're going to States soon, aren't you, for TwitchCon?
Yes, Vegas next Wednesday. We're flying on
next Wednesday. Yeah, right. Well, have an amazing time. Don't spend too much money in the casinos and the strip clubs. Okay. Yeah, no, not there yet. When you exit, then you can go to Las Vegas and spend all the money. Yeah, but not yet. You're a startup. Keep it lean,
Exactly.
Just one stripper and one roulette table. That's it. You're a startup, guys. All right.
Exactly. Thank you. Right. Thank you again for the invitation as well. And it was really cool. I really enjoyed the time. So
good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much. And have a great week and a great next week in Las Vegas. And I'll definitely see you again, probably at a next networking event. We'll bump into each other and catch up then.
Definitely.
Cool. All right. Cheers, guys.
Take care. Thank you, Greg. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening and/or watching. Please like and subscribe and join in the conversation in the comments below.